are coming through. They have put tanks on the streets against people who are protesting financial embezzlement by the People's Bank in Henan province, and they are questioning about their own life savings and funds, and these are tanks which have been pushed there. Tanks on the streets, and very reminiscent of the Tiananmen Square issue, the pro-democracy protesters and the way they were crushed by the Chinese regime. Have a look at these pictures. This is the amount of brute force that is being exercised and used by the Chinese authorities on the people who are only asking for their savings. It's a people's bank. The Henan province, the bank's also controlled by the state. The principal is absconding. Branches have frozen all accounts and they are not releasing funds. People are saying, give us our money. And the government and the authorities are saying, give us a guarantee that you will not protest. And now they have put tanks on the streets. I have Upadhayaya, senior reporter, India and South Asia at the Epoch Times with us, and Ms.Pratibha, associate fellow at IDSA, Manohar Parikar, IDSA. Namaste, ladies. And Venus, just last week we were speaking about this. Appalling at a time where reports suggest that the Chinese authorities are working hard to scuttle and totally smother a report on human rights and the situation in China, comes this, where in the Henan province they have unleashed tanks out.
Anand, China doesn't have a very good record on human rights violations, and we all know that. The funny part is that despite everything, all the reports existing and talks happening on the forum and various campaigns happening, the Chinese establishment still wants to prove that it has a good track record. For that matter, the Reuters report that the report that Reuters has come up with, the whatever they are doing in Xinjiang, there's some very shocking things that have come up recently. There was a human rights forum that was organized in US by Congressman Chris Smith, and there were very authoritative experts on the panel of this particular topic that had come on. And they mentioned that, and I'm talking about one particular authoritative expert, Ethan Gutman. He mentioned that there are 1,000 concentration camps in Xinjiang, and annually about 50,000 prisoners are harvested for their organs. Now, this is Ethan's analysis, his research based on interviews that he has done with various refugees in various camps in Central Asian countries. Now, this is in the age group of 28 to 29, and if every prisoner yields 3 organs, China is harvesting 150,000 organs from live prisoners every year. That's according to Ethan's calculation. So there are horrors. Probably, in the future, humanity is going to know more about such things that are happening, things that are actually legalized in China. There is another expert who came on this forum, Enver Tohti. Enver Tohti is also known on various international platforms. And he talked about something which is very shocking. He mentioned about meeting someone in Taipei. And he said that this person, his brother, was to go for an organ harvest in China. And he knew about persecution of Falun Gong practitioners. And actually, the organ harvest started from Falun Gong practitioners. So he told the doctor, he said, see, I do not want Falun Gong organs. And that's how the harvested organs are called. He said, I don't want Falun Gong organs. And doctor said, please don't worry, because now all the organs are coming from Xinjiang. Back to you.
My God, absolutely shocking. And before I go across to Pratibha ji, this is more inputs on the human rights violation and that report, ladies and gentlemen, that we were talking about and Venus was also mentioning right now, where after evidence of human rights violations against Uyghur Muslims in the Xinjiang province, reports are suggesting that China is using the strong arm to try and clearly muscle the UNHRC to bury this entire report. Now, let's understand the details of this report. China has asked UN Human Rights Chief to bury the entire Xinjiang report. It's been accused of running Uyghur forced labor camps in Xinjiang. A team of UN experts has been gathering evidence for 3 years, exactly what Venus was just telling you. And this release of this report has been delayed for months. China has used all the powers within its wherewithal to try, the Chinese state has tried to do this, the CCP and the PLA, to try and ensure that this report is buried, it is not released. China is now circulating the letter among diplomats in Geneva to try and bury this report. So far, the Chinese letter has said, and we have access to some of the contents of the letter, and the report says it will undermine the credibility of UNHRC, so don't release this. The letter says the report will harm ties between the UNHRC and member states. China has officially denied circulation of such a letter. The PLA is saying that it opposes the interference in internal matters. And the Chinese Foreign Ministry has claimed it's a continuous attempt to smear the PLA and the CCP's image. The UNHRC chief has pledged to release the report before the exit in August. So it should be out. This report will be out. The UNHRC chief actually faced flack for clean chit to China after May visit to Xinjiang. The HRC chief dubbed internment camps as vocational training centers and was accused of parroting Chinese propaganda. Now, Pratibha ji, how is one nation able to impose so much of pressure and exercise so much of muscle flexing?
I think
how can it be part of the UNHRC?
I think you have to look at it from a broader perspective. You see, Chinese don't see it as a simple human rights issue. For them, it is a larger game that they're playing with the United States. They see it as the US using human rights as a tool against China. So as long as they hold that view, that US is using human rights against China, you're going to keep hearing such stories of Chinese trying their very best to scuttle such reports being published. So this is one thing. Second thing is that they have a very different perspective on how the extreme terrorism problem in Xinjiang has to be handled. Very different from rest of the world, and they believe that you have to target religious extremism in order to combat terrorism. And all these efforts, you see, they argue that it is part of their de-radicalization strategy. So they have a very different view on how things are unfolding, and they do not believe that whatever the UN, the efforts by various countries to talk to China about Xinjiang, they don't see it as a genuine effort. They see it more as a kind of tussle between US and China. So that's why you see a very harsh reaction from China, and why China says that it can actually, have a negative impact on the Human Rights Council in China.
No, but there has to be a way to counter this. China can't get away with the kind of the things that are being reported. Are all the Uyghurs lying? Are the UN experts lying? Why is there so much pressure on the UNHRC chief? There are many nations who have questioned what is China's right to sit on the chair of the UNHRC or even be part of the UNHRC, Venus.
Yes,
and look what's happening in the Henan province. This is how they strong arm people.
There's, of course, a lot of pressure to scuttle many of these reports. There's no question about that. And yes, there are many ways that countries are trying to hold China accountable for what they see as severe human rights violations. I'm just saying that the why Chinese have been so harsh in their response is because it's not something seen as a domestic issue. It is seen as a game being played by two powers. So this is why they don't see it as a very nations holding China accountable for human rights. They see it as using human rights as to counter Chinese influence. So